Guys, I want to tell you about our friends over at Frost Buddy. It is drinkware engineered to keep your beverages exactly how you want them. Whether you're heading out for an adventure or just powering through your day, Frost Buddy's flagship product, the Universal Buddy, replaces the need for multiple can coolers by fitting virtually every 12-ounce and 16-ounce can bottle you drink, sodas and seltzers to coffee and sparkling water, all in a single versatile design. Constructed with high quality double walled stainless steel and thoughtful features like a flexible silicone lid and a tapered shape that fits most cup holders, Frostbuddy keeps drinks cold for 12 hours and hot for up to 6 hours. So you get consistent temperature control, whether it's an iced drink on a hot afternoon or a hot coffee on the drive to work. Built to last, field tested for durability, and backed by a 30-day return policy, Frostbuddy makes everyday moments, from tailgates and beach days to backyard cookouts and commutes, more enjoyable. Going over and click the link below and use promo code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase when you visit our friends over at frostbuddy.com, and when you use that promo code SSS15. Are you tired of spending upwards of $7 to $8 on coffees that are full of sugar and high in fat? Well, look no further than Chike Nutrition, the brand redefining what coffee can do for your day. Chike Nutrition combines the rich, familiar taste of real coffee with 20 grams of high-quality protein and the energy of 2 shots of espresso, giving you both fuel and function in every scoop. Available in a variety of crave-worthy flavors like mocha, caramel, vanilla, and many more, Chike delivers smooth, cafe-style iced coffee that mixes instantly with water or your favorite milk, with no clunky blender or complicated prep needed. Each serving is designed to be low in sugar, packed with protein, and loaded with real espresso, so that you can get a sustained energy boost that helps power your morning, workout, or busy afternoon without the crash that comes from sugary coffee drinks. Whether you're looking for better nutrition in your coffee routine or a smarter way to stay energized and full longer, Chike makes it simple. Scoop, shake, sip, and enjoy. If you want to take advantage of the new year and get in the best shape of your life, click the link below and get yourself 10% off of your first order over at ChikeNutrition.com.
Well, this is the first real freaking week of college football that we haven't had any drama going on. We have no Brennan Sorsby news except for the fact that he will not be eligible for the supplemental draft, which is, I will be honest with you, it's a win-lose situation for him. It's a win because he can wait to enter this upcoming year's NFL draft. It's a lose situation because it's like going to a job interview and knowingly you messed up in a big way, whether it be at your previous employer or somewhere else, and you ended up screwing yourself when it was all said and done because, number one, you either did something stupid that ended up destroying any chance that you had of getting that job opportunity, and then trying to play it off as saying that you didn't do anything. Well, unfortunately for Brennan Sorsby, he has to pay the consequences for his actions. We'll get into that and a lot more later on tonight. But nonetheless, guys, we are live. This is the Southern Sports Scene here on YouTube. I'm your host, as always, Lucas Hill. Make sure y'all do us a favor. Hit the like and share button down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short here on the Southern Sports Scene. Every live show brought to you by our good friends over at Frostbuddy. Going over to frostbuddy.com. Use that promo code SSS15 to get 15% off your first purchase. That is code SSS15 to get 15% off of your first purchase. We also want to thank our good friends over at Chike Nutrition. 20 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, 1 gram of sugar. You can get the best possible start to your morning with our good friends over at ChikeNutrition.com. We also, as always, we are also streaming live on the Buzzer app. Download Buzzer today if you guys want to get started with your content creation journey. Why not do it with the arguably one of the best and fastest rising social media platforms right now in the United States? Use our friends over at Buzzer. See if you can become a verified creator and check out the best from sports without all the BS. First of all, we got to first, of course, address the unfortunate news. Brennan Sorsby will be ineligible or has been declined an opportunity to be in the supplemental draft, so he will not be in college football or the NFL for 2026. Now, there was no guarantee that he was even going to be selected. I know that there were a lot of teams that may have expressed interest in it, but obviously the risk is too high when it comes to a kid like this. And look, unfortunately, we are now entering that era where you have teams like this that more of these decisions are going to continue to ensue, especially when things like this happen. All right. This is on nobody else but Sorsby himself. Now, do I respect the fact that he decided to go to rehab as soon as he got caught? We knew obviously that was going to happen. But again, it just seems like you knew things like this were going to happen. You knew that there was still going to be a lot of backlash from this, and there was going to obviously be some aggravation on both sides. But the general consensus came to the fact that it's obvious that Brennan Sorsby was wrong. He should have never even gambled in the first place. And unfortunately, he has to pay that consequence, and that is not being able to play in college football in 2026 and having to wait almost a full year before, or actually just over a year and a half, maybe 2 years before he plays again in college football. So that is the situation we are in right now when it comes to Brennan Sorsby. Do I wish that the NFL would have given him an opportunity to be in the supplemental draft? Yes. But do I understand the risk that would have came with it? Obviously so. I mean, it was a situation that they did not want to get themselves in, and if they did, then it was not going to benefit an NFL team. There was going to be a lot of backlash. I'm sure that there was going to be some things that would have been said behind the scenes. So we'll see. So the NFL Management Council of Larry Ferrazzini said that the league presented by your petition are too significant, or the issues are too significant and too closely tied to the league's core integrity interests to permit meaningful review within the timeline presented. So I think what this tells me is that the likelihood of him being drafted this upcoming season is very low. And it sucks for a kid like that because the on-field product is really freaking good. He's a really, really talented quarterback. But unfortunately, when baggage like that hits the fan and when it comes out like that, it's just not easy to ignore at the end of the day. So Sorsby dug his own grave. Don't gamble, okay? I know that there's a lot of companies that, are sponsored by that have gambling sponsors and such, and I don't think it's a hypocrisy, but I do think at the end of the day, when you talk about somebody like this, you obviously have to understand the ramifications that occurred because of this situation. And unfortunately, he's going to have to pay the consequence. So we'll see what happens for Sorsby coming soon, but I don't know, man. It's just, it hasn't been a very good situation from him as of late. All right. Most important topic of this afternoon. Who are the players that are going to take a big step forward in 2026? So, shout out to my guy, Reed Napper, from For the Love of the Game. By the way, you can holler at Reed on X at LFTGCFB, Love for the Game College Football. A lot of stuff that he presented at the end of the day. So I'm trying to find his post. So he put out the top 10 quarterbacks that are going to take a big jump in 2026. And I am not hating on the list at all. I think it's a really good list. And I think there's a lot of names on here that eventually could exceed expectations at the end of the day. And there's a lot of those guys that I have seen in person as well. So starting off the list, let me zoom out of this one for a little bit. All right, there we go. So at number 1, obviously he has Keelan Russell. I'm not going to be mad at that one. I like Keelan Russell. I think he has a very, very high ceiling at the end of the day. I think that what he brings to the table is impressive. I think with what he was able to do coming out of high school, there's a reason why this kid is one of the best high school quarterbacks coming out of the class of 2025. All you have to do is just turn on the film. Initially committed to SMU, ended up making the switch to Bama earlier in 2024. So I think he's in a really good situation. I think he's in a really good system. I think Ryan Grubb's a hell of a play caller. I think somebody like him can be a Michael Penix Jr.-esque type of player. Russell's not a guy that's going to scramble a lot. Really, in my opinion, he is the best. He has the best arm that has come out of Tuscaloosa since Bryce Young. And he has a hell of a lot of potential with the arm that he has. If you look at Bryce Young whenever he was coming out of modern-day high school in California, and you compare him to what Keelan Russell was doing at Duncanville, very similar skill sets, except Russell's a bit taller, and he has a little bit more weight on him. I think Keelan Russell's going to be very special this year. I think he's got a lot of potential to be one of the best quarterbacks within the next year or two if he's developed properly, which I do believe that could be the case at the end of the day. Number 2 is Micah Alahado. I've seen Micah Alahado play the game. Guys, this is just the start of what's going to be a very good run for Hawaii with Timmy Chang as their head coach. They finally got over the hump. They found their offensive identity. They have the weapons that they surrounded themselves with. And they did a dang good job of surrounding Mike Alahado with the weapons that he needs. And listen, I think that there is all the possibility in the world that he could end up as arguably the best G5, G6 quarterback in the nation. I firmly believe that. because Alhado's arm is the best that's come out of Hawaii since Colt Brennan left. There's been some good quarterbacks in between. Hawaii has always been known for their high-flying go-go offense. They've always been known that. But they finally got over the hump. Timmy Chang goes ahead. He gets a guy like Anthony Arsenault in the building. Third full year with the staff, got promoted from running backs coach to full-time offensive coordinator. I do think that it's Chang that's a primary play caller, but I think when it comes to what Arsenault did, I think the rushing game was a lot better at the end of the day. This is one of the best passing offenses in the Mountain West, 9th nationally and 1st in the conference in passing, averaged over almost 300 yards a game when it came to his throwing ability. 2nd in red zone offense this past year. This is a red zone threat team. They did lose some guys to the transfer portal. But listen, Alhado is a Hawaii guy, went to Bishop Gorman High School, and put up video game type numbers. The fact that this kid was only a 3-star recruit is just insane to me. And I know that it didn't help either about how the season kind of ended for him in 2023. I was surprised that he didn't have a lot of offers at the end of the day. I think he was a really good prospect. The problem is that when you're 5'10" and 180 pounds, pretty much soaking wet, not a big guy. Not a very strong quarterback. But I will say this. This kid is tough. And this kid is going to be very special at the end of the day. Somebody gave him an opportunity. You go look at his Bishop Gorman highlights. Guys, he had a 70% completion percentage in 3 straight seasons as a starter. He was 39-2 as a starting quarterback. And it was impressive, to say the least. Guys, he had 125 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions in 4 years. And that's including the 2 games he started as a freshman at Bishop Gorman. From one of the best high school from one of the best high schools in the country. The guy throws 54 touchdowns one year, has a 35-0 touchdown to interception ratio, but yet because of his height and weight, he's limited to only a handful of offers. 3-star guy. Hawaii, UNLV, Utah State ended up deciding to want to go home. And what did he do in his first full year as a starter? All he did was just have a 66% completion rate and throw for over 3,100 yards. And guess what? The best has yet to come for him. I don't think that he has reached his peak yet compared to what some people may believe. He's barely getting started on what this team can accomplish. This run and shoot offense is ridiculously fast. It is fast-paced, and it is needed. So obviously you lose guys like Jackson Harris, who's now at LSU. Brandon White, who's also at Kansas State. Joey Farthing, which was a pretty significant loss for you. I don't know what he's going to do at the end of the day. Still a guy that's in the portal as we speak. So we'll see, man. I would like for him to be back at Hawaii this upcoming season, which I expect for him to do. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I really think that he deserves to be back at Hawaii because, look, this kid has all the talent in the world. And I think if he is to stay at the university, he's going to leave an impact that is unlike anything else we have seen so far at Hawaii. Granted, he didn't get a whole lot of playing time at the end of the day, but again, he's a massive he can make a huge impact. A massive impact for any program at the end of the day. So, again, I don't mean to sound long-winded whenever I go on these talks like this, but Hawaii is about to be the addition of a guy like Mike Alhado is going to be a big difference between Hawaii just being another standard G5 team that has a great offense, fast-paced, to them being a serious contender for a college football playoff. Let's go to my guy at number 3 at Nick Minicucci. Guys, Nick Minicucci is somebody that I got to watch in person at the 68 Ventures Bowl. Smart football player, guys. Very, very smart football player. You know what's so unique about him is that he's not going to get a whole lot of attention at the end of the day when it comes to the NFL draft and such. But it just, think about what happened this past year. Starts off, he's the backup quarterback, has to come in for the season after their starting quarterback goes down. All right, bet. What happens right after that? He ends up being one of the best quarterbacks in the CUSA. They went through 3 quarterbacks that first game of the season. It initially was going to be Zach Marker, who was coming off of a 10 touchdown to 0 interception season in 2024. That was the guy. Marker gets hurt. Minicucci has to step in. And what did he do? He came in and made a massive, massive impact that vaulted Delaware all the way into getting their first bowl win in program history. That was a good team they played too in Louisiana. Guys, look, this was a Louisiana team they played that literally in 2024, this was a 10-win team. That was a 10-win Louisiana team that they just played 2 years ago. That was in the Sun Belt title. And Louisiana had to win their last 4 games just to make a bowl game. They were riding high. They beat some pretty decent teams. They beat a good Texas State team that ended up being bowl eligible. They beat Arkansas State, who's always a threat at the end of the day. But you look at some of the losses that Louisiana had too. I mean, obviously you're going to get blown out by Missouri. It's Missouri. It's an SEC team that you're trying to play. Embarrassing loss at Eastern Michigan. You played James Madison tough. Played Southern Miss tough, which was Charlie Huff. Played Troy tough throughout the majority of the game. But you finally got some momentum going for you at the end of the day up until the bowl game. But look, man, Ryan Carty has got that program going in the right direction. Crazy as it sounds. You know what Minicucci did? Game manager. Knew when to throw the football. was able to throw the football at a good time. And look, that was a Delaware team that wasn't even supposed to be in a bowl game. There wasn't enough 6-win teams that were eligible this year. That's crazy to me. But Minicucci ended up being a big difference this year. I think he's an early favorite for CUSA Offensive Player of the Year this year. I think Delaware's best years are ahead of them. I expect them to be back in a bowl game this year. And look, I've been a Delaware fan since then, man. Ryan Carty's a really good head coach. And I'm excited to see the Blue Hens back in action in 2026. Number 4 is Alberto Mendoza. Other than the fact that he is the brother of Fernando Mendoza, you could look at it in hindsight and say, okay, well, what does he bring to the table as a quarterback? What is so special about what he does? Look, I'm hearing some really good things coming out of Georgia Tech's camp. Now, Georgia Tech, he obviously has some big shoes to fill at Georgia Tech. You have a brand new offensive coordinator, well, really a new primary play caller. Haynes King is gone. You think about the legacy that he obviously has to leave. Guys, Haynes King was a workhorse whenever he was at Georgia Tech. So Mendoza's obviously got that legacy he's got to leave behind. He's got to consider. You have a new play caller that's a former Georgia Tech quarterback that played there for a little bit. Now it's his first time being an offensive coordinator in college. It's his first coordinator job at the college game in 15 years since he was a running backs coach at UCF, and George Godsey, former offensive coordinator at Houston. So you obviously have to consider what he could bring at the end of the day, which I expect will be a good bit. I think he has that quarterback. He's kind of I wouldn't say he's a quarterback whisperer, but we'll see, man. 2 years as a offensive coordinator in really Houston didn't do a whole lot either. But Chris Weinke, who's been the co-OC since 2023, he understands how this offense is going to be run. He understands that this is an opportunity for him to get his feet back under him, and him being a really true play caller. That's going to be a big adjustment for him, going from, shall we say, being a primary play caller for or really kind of taking a back seat, being more of a position coach, and now he's thrown back into the spotlight as the primary play caller because Buster Faulkner's now at Georgia Tech. Mendoza has a big arm. He uses his wheels really efficiently. We've seen him in garbage time against teams. I think he's got a lot of potential at the end of the day. I think Alberto Mendoza is going to be one of those guys that I wouldn't necessarily say he flies under the radar. I do think, though, that I don't think we're paying much attention to what Georgia Tech could do this year as well. Number 5 is Lincoln Kienholz. Here's the difference between Jeff Brom quarterbacks past and now with what you get with Kienholz. In the 2 years that Jeff Brom has been the play caller, you have had quarterbacks with prior starting experience at other schools. You had Jack Plummer, who was a starter at Cal and Purdue, of course, before transferring in with Jeff Brom to go to Louisville. Plummer was obviously the quarterback whenever he was at Purdue. Has a fairly solid year after 2023, now in the UFL. You look at what Tyler Shuck brought to the table after he transferred in from Mississippi State and then Oregon, or no, not Mississippi State. After transferring in from Texas Tech and then Oregon, obviously before, he ends up having a pretty good season in 2024. 3,100 passing yards, 23-6 touchdown to interception ratio. Again, solid year that ends up leading to him being a top 50 quarterback taken. And then you look at what happened this past year with Miller Moss. And I thought it was a pretty good, a fairly solid season for the most part. And it was impressive, man. I think that there was some really bright spots on the season. I thought that Miller Moss made some pretty good plays when it was all said and done. But again, he wasn't I don't think he was the best that Louisville has had. But what about Lincoln Kienholz? Kienholz has a big arm. I think that he has a better arm than Miller Moss and Jack Plummer. But it's hard for me to compare him to Chuck. Because I just don't see a scenario where he's going to get drafted within the first 50 picks, let alone the first 100 picks. That's just my opinion. I do, however, compliment Brian Brom, offensive coordinator, for his ability to develop quarterbacks and develop good offenses. He has weapons around him that he can throw the football to. Isaac Brown is one of the best playmakers in the country. Isaac Brown is probably a top 30 pick this year, in my opinion. One of the ACC's best running backs, hampered with injury this past year. Other than that, he was averaging over 9 yards a carry almost 9 yards a carry this past year. If he doesn't get injured in the middle of the season, he probably ends the year averaging close to just over 7.5, 8 yards a carry. He's an explosive player that can do just about anything from an offensive standpoint. He is the Alvin Kamara of that offense. He is that reason why that offense is able to go so fast and be able to work so fast. It's impressive to say the least, man. And it makes me excited for what Louisville could do this year. I know that they've always kind of been steady on that 9-3, 9-4 path. But again, Louisville this year, I would consider to be a sleeper in the ACC. I would expect them, especially when it comes to SMU early on, that September 19th. Guys, September 19th is going to be the date of college football that you all have to write down and remember for the rest of the year. Because that is going to create a lot of interesting scenarios when it comes time to the last weekend of college football for each respective conference championship. Big 12 championship could be decided there. ACC championship could be decided there. SEC championships participants could be decided, all of which could end up being decided on September the 19th. But Louisville's schedule, other than that, you get Ole Miss in Music City. You get SMU at home, which I think it favors you depending on what your offense is able to do. We'll see. At Georgia Tech, at North Carolina. Other than that, man, I think you could end the year off with just one ACC loss. That also depends on what happens when you go to North Carolina State. But I think other than that, this is a very favorable schedule if you're Louisville, and it's a schedule that you are all in for at the end of the day. I really think that this is a good schedule for them, and I think that when it's all said and done, Louisville, we could be looking at them back in the ACC championship once again. You also brought back in Trey Richardson, who's a Vanderbilt transfer who had some pretty good things that went his way whenever he was at Vandy. Really, really dynamic receiver, man. I really like Trey Richardson. Glad that he's at Louisville. Number 6 is Julian Lewis. Look, Juju is a phenomenal quarterback. I don't know if the offense is going to fit him. Well, really, I don't think that his place at Syracuse or at Colorado is going to be a good fit for him. Do I think that the offense fits him, though? Yes. Brendan Marion's go-go offense fits what Julian Lewis wants to do. Scramble, throw the football, and be a dynamic playmaker. That's what Juju wants to do with the football, and I think that's what he needs to do. But Colorado is a mess, bro. They've been a mess for a very long time, and it is going to frustrate a lot of people if they miss out on expectations once again. Because listen, if Deion Sanders is fired after this year, which, by the way, you better have him on the hot seat. But that again, that also depends on what the schedule looks like, or not really what the schedule, how the results of this season look like. So, again, if Juju ends up deciding to hit the portal, Miami should be his first call. Him and that Shannon Dawson offense would be a match made in heaven. Number 7 is Malik Washington. Again, this is a very similar situation. Malik Washington's a really good quarterback, showed some signs this past year. I don't think that he should be in the same building as Mike Locksley. So what will that happen? What will that lead to at the end of the day? I don't know. Clint Trickett has a really good offensive system that he always likes to bring. But is he listen, Clint Trickett is going to have his best offensive quarterback, or he's going to have his best quarterback that he's ever had. And look, he had 2 freaking JUCO quarterbacks that were at P5 level. John Franklin, and he had DeAndre Johnson, both of which were Florida State guys. Malik Washington is the best quarterback that he has ever had in his coaching career. By the way, if you didn't get the reference, that was Last Chance U. Go watch season 1 and 2. But anyways, Malik Washington is one of those guys that I'm really, really intrigued to see what happens this year. I had him as a guy to watch out for outside of my top 10 quarterbacks list. He's a really, really dynamic player, dude. I don't know what it is, but listen, Malik is uber talented, dude. It's stupid how much talent that this kid has, but yet he chooses to stay in Maryland. They've had some big hits lately when it comes to recruiting, obviously with him. You got arguably the number 1 player in the class of 2026 in Zion L. Or Ely, however you say the kid's last name. Anyways, Maryland's going to be a team that you got to pay close attention to if you're in Big Ten territory, because this is it for Mike Locksley. If you have another losing season this year, he's done. There's no way I see it. Number 8 is Jared Curtis, number 1 quarterback in the class of 2026. What are we going to do? What are they going to look like? What do we think about them? First year under the Tim Beck offense. Jared Curtis is really good. Is he worth all the hype? We'll see. A little bit taller, a little bit bigger than Diego Pavia. But can he run the Tim Beck offense to a T? That is going to be the question when it's all said and done about Jared Curtis. Let's talk about our guy Faison Brandon at number 9. Faison Brandon is really, really good. The ceiling is very similar to his, except there's still some battle going on between him, George McIntyre, and Ryan Staub. I would expect George McIntyre to get the start maybe at the end of the day. I know that Josh Heupel said, it's close, it's this, it's that. I would expect they're going to start the young guys. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be McIntyre first because he's been in the offense longer. Faison is going to get some playing time in the first week or two. I don't think they'll have an answer at quarterback until we get to the second or third game of the season. They'll have a for-sure quarterback by the time we get to SEC play. But man, Faison Brandon's ceiling is so much higher. Much more mobile. A guy that is a stud, knows how to win. The SEC could be in trouble if he is on the field. At number 10, I have Steve Angeli. Look, if Steve Angeli when he was healthy, Steve Angeli was a big reason why Syracuse got off to such a good start this past year. They were at 3-1. And then as soon as he gets hurt, it was a complete and utter meltdown. That team cannot function without its star quarterback. And it showed bad. Steve Angeli just was not the same. Or that Syracuse team just was not the same without a guy like him on the field. Angeli just does such a good dang job of being a signal caller, of being a leader on the field, because he's been at the top. He was around Notre Dame when they went all the way to the national championship. He's been around some really good quarterbacks throughout his career. This is it for Steve Angeli this year. I think that he's in for a good season. I definitely think that the weapons around him, and I think that with all how his rehab is going, I'm hearing it's going pretty good. Look, man, top 40 recruiting class this past year, but they're going to get battle tested early on. They completely let go of all of their DCs this past year. You brought in Vince Cares from Toledo, which, by the way, Toledo had some dudes that came through during his time there. You also bring in John Scott Jr., who was last time he was around the college game was when he was the D-line coach ever at Penn State. So he is now going to be the defensive line / co-defensive coordinator for Syracuse. So we'll see, man. September is going to be battle tested. You're going to go up against a team like Cal, who is expected to take a step up this year. Jaron Kiawe-Sagapalete is back, which, by the way, we will be seeing him this weekend over at Manning Passing Academy. And you got to go play Pitt on the road. Pitt's going to have one of the best defenses in college football, or in the ACC, I should say. Let's see what they bring to the table. And then ACC play, it is brutal. Okay? You go to Virginia, who won 11 games this past year. You play Louisville, you play SMU, you play Clemson, then you play Notre Dame at home. And then you go to North Carolina State. Median floor is probably 2-10, 3-9 maybe. Floor, I could see a 6 or 7 win season. Median, I think that this is a 4-8 or 5-7 team. It depends on the health of the team. It depends on what happens, how much of an improvement is this defense going to take this year. We just don't know just yet. So, a lot to still be decided, but man, this team is going to have to rally around a guy like Steve Angeli. This offense cannot function without a quarterback like him. He doesn't have to be what Kyle McCord was 2 years ago, because Kyle McCord was his own quarterback. Kyle McCord left his own legacy at Syracuse. Steve Angeli just has to be Steve Angeli at the end of the day. Last thing we're going to talk about for today, look, ACC Power Rankings time. We are continuing on with our Power Rankings this year. This time, it's ACC time. We did SEC this past week. Now it's time to go to the SEC. All right, starting off, bottom of the list, 17th ranked. I'm going to have Stanford there. Look, it's a bad team. New head coach, Tavita Pritchard, former Stanford quarterback. Can he bring the magic back like he did? But I don't know, man. I just don't see it happening in year one. Is Stanford really back when it comes to athletics? I think they've been on a downward spiral. Listen, this was a team that was a consistent player in the Rose Bowl. They won 2 Rose Bowls during their best era with David Shaw as their head coach. They had a plethora of great running backs. Bryce Love, Toby Gerhart. Obviously, everybody knows about Christian McCaffrey. They're not the same, though, bud. So, we'll see what happens in year one with Stanford. I just don't think it looks good. Number 16, I have Boston College. This team is bad, okay? I don't know if Boston College is going to win a single ACC game this year. I just don't see it. Bill O'Brien is dead in the water, man. You went out and you got Ted Roof, who's been all around college football the last 10, 15 years. He's not a good coordinator. I don't know how he still has a job in college football, but I don't know, man. Ted Roof is just a mess. Ted Roof has destroyed a lot of defenses. Now, I will say, I don't think he was bad whenever he was with programs like Georgia Tech for a little while. They had some decent defenses for the most part. Auburn he was a national champion whenever he was at Auburn, but I don't know, man. Bill O'Brien was a bad hire, in my opinion. I think that Boston College jumped the gun on it severely, and it just wasn't a good hire at the end of the day. I know they won 7 games 2 years ago, but that's when Tommy Castellanos was there, brother. 2026 just does not look good for BC. I don't see much improvement at the end of the day. We'll see. I don't know. I really don't know. Number 15, I have Syracuse. Again, kind of briefly mentioned Syracuse earlier. What does year 3 look like for Fran Brown? I've always liked Fran Brown. I think he's a heck of a head coach. I think he's a heck of a guy. One of the realest coaches out there in college football right now. The health of this team has obviously got to play a big role into this. And a big difference in between them being a bowl team and them scratching their butts, sitting on the couch watching bowl season again this year. 14, I have North Carolina. I don't see much improvement from this team. The Belichick hire is just nothing but show. So that's really all I can say on that. 13 is Florida State. This team is dead in the water. This team is absolutely disgustingly bad. Mike Norvell, if he doesn't make a bowl game this year, and if they start off really bad, his ass is grass. He's done this year. I just don't see a scenario where he ends up getting another head coaching job or he ends up staying in Tallahassee past this year. 12, I have Wake Forest. Wake Forest is interesting to me. Jake Dickert's first full year ends up winning 9 games this year. And look, kind of surprised much of the ACC. I don't know what it was about Wake Forest this past year that was really good. Like this was a middle of the pack ACC team that still managed to find their way and get to a bowl game, won 9 games this year, and had some pretty good wins. Beat Virginia at Scott Stadium this past year. Dominated teams early on. Beat SMU. I mean, it's a quality win. Went to overtime with Georgia Tech. Could have won that football game. Apart from that, man, I mean, if they would have beaten Duke, they would have very likely been playing for an ACC championship. So, look, man, it was a wide open ACC for the longest time. Could Wake Forest come out of nowhere once again and be a sleeper for a championship? We'll see. I don't know just yet. In year 2 of the Jake Dickert era, Robbie Zell, the offensive coordinator, really did a great job this past year. And look, he's going to be really good. Cam Shanks you bring in from Arkansas, who is an electric return man. Gio Lopez is going to be a good quarterback coming in from North Carolina. We've seen the best of Gio Lopez. I think he fits in well with this Jake Dickert system. If you remember, too, when he was with South Alabama, this is a guy that had 25 touchdowns with the Jags. If he's around a competent offensive coordinator, he's going to make plays. Number 11, I have Duke. I was thinking about probably switching Wake Forest and Duke this year, but I think Duke, this obviously could change. I probably could switch up Wake Forest and Duke at the end of the day. Manny Diaz's defense is still going to be decent. They're going to win him some games this year. Offensively, it's a big step back. I mean, obviously so. You just lost the best quarterback in the ACC, who's now at our number 1 for our power rankings, which we'll get to in a minute. Number 10 is Georgia Tech. Again, what are the questions surrounding Alberto Mendoza? What is he going to look like with new OC in play? Brent Key's done a really good job at Georgia Tech and really hitting the portal hard. Georgia Tech, again, could be a sleeper in the ACC, but if this is an 8-win team in 2026, I think we know what the ceiling and the floor is for them, and it's a really, really good ceiling. Number 9 is Clemson. Listen, the fall of Clemson is real. The ending to the Clemson dynasty is real. Love Dabo. I don't think they pull the plug right now, but I do believe eventually they will. Whether it be after this year or within a year from now or whatever. I don't know, man. But the Dabo Swinney era is a great legacy. But the rest of college football is leaving where Dabo is trying to stay. It's just not happening anymore this year. Clemson had their biggest transfer portal class ever this year, and it sucks. Straight up. Number 8 is Cal. Hey, let me just tell you, we're sleeping on Cal this year. I've already dropped my sleeper series for it. If you want to go watch it, please click the link. Click the YouTube link below and take a look at what you guys think, man. We got a lot that we could potentially talk about with this team. There's a lot that we could be seeing from Cal. Their floor obviously could be 4-8 or 5-7. However, guess what? We could be entering a situation where Cal could be a 10-win team. and maybe even an ACC championship player too. Jaron Kiawe Sagpaletes comes in. Tosh Lupoy came in and brought in a top 20 transfer portal class. The impact has been made significantly with a team like Cal. Cal is going to be really good this year. Make no mistake about that. Number 7 is North Carolina State. C.J. Bailey is going to be one of the best quarterbacks returning for the ACC. I think he has early. I think his draft stock could rise this year. I think he's got the prototypical NFL quarterback style. I know I've heard a lot of Taylon Green-esque athletic ability from him. But in my opinion, he's a better passer than Taylon Green. That's where I stand on that. Number 6 is Virginia Tech. What are we going to expect from year one of the James Franklin era there? You brought in a lot of transfers from Penn State to VT. Is James Franklin really a good coach, man? I think he is. But is he going to be one of these coaches that is just living off of one great season and then missing expectations? I don't know. I really don't know, man. We'll see. I figured he'd still have a head coaching job. I didn't think that it'd be in Blacksburg, but hey. What do you know? 5, I have Pitt. Again, one of the best defenses in college football in the ACC this year. Expect that to be a big point of emphasis for Pitt. Mason Kineholt. How do you say this kid's last name? Mason Heitschnell. Dadgum. Why did I get that completely wrong? Enters his second full year as a starter. Pretty solid opening season. Looked really good at times throughout the year. And, man, I think that there's a pretty high ceiling for him being in this position. You know, I think that he is a very smart football player for his age, even despite him being just turning 19 years old. His ceiling is very bright. I think that there is a lot that he obviously had to improve on. Took a lot of sacks this past in the bowl game against East Carolina, and that's an area of his game that he has to improve upon, but I think that this is a Pitt offense that still should be around where they were this past year. Expect them to still be a consistent 8 or 9 win team over the next several years. So yeah, man. When Pat Narduzzi leaves, when he officially retires, Cade Bell could eventually look at himself as the next head coach in waiting for a very long time. You also brought in Corey Sanders, who is a long-time assistant head coach and safeties coach with Pitt. He's been a long-time assistant with Narduzzi. Obviously with Randy Bates, who is now retiring after this year. Man, things just got a lot better with Pitt. And just a really, really good football player when it's all said and done. Or really, really good signal caller, and a guy that could be a really good player developer when it's all said and done at Pitt. Number 4, I have Virginia. Is last year a fluke? 11-win season in 2025. Great quarterback play. You brought in Bo Pribula from Missouri. What does Tony Elliott do in year number 2 of I just got my saved by a great season? This offense still should be really good. Thought you brought in some pretty good guys. Peyton Lewis, who comes in from Tennessee. High ceiling for him. Was not a feature back at Tennessee, but still managed to average over 4.5 yards a carry. Pitt's a team that you need to look out, or not Pitt. Virginia's a team that you need to look out for this year, man. If UVA can consistently get 7, 8, 9 wins every other season, I think that's enough for Tony Elliott to have his job saved, to keep his job for the time being. And don't be surprised every other year where you see Virginia maybe even sneak into the playoff for an ACC or an ACC championship every other year. If Miami or maybe even SMU slip up, they could be that future number 2 team in the ACC. 3, I have Louisville. I've already talked about them. Jeff Brom has always led this at Louisville team to be a top 5 team in the ACC. Louisville is going to be staying there. I think that defensively you could take a step forward. I know obviously you have a lot to replace when it comes to who you lost this year. You end up having Ron English, who is going to be stepping away this year. Mark Ivey, who is now going to be the primary play caller for the defense, was a longtime assistant at Louisville from 2019 on. Former interim head coach for Appalachian State. Hasn't been a defensive coordinator since he was at Gulf Coast High School in 2001. So, been a while since he was a since he was a signal caller of sorts, but Ivey's been around this Louisville team for the last almost 6, maybe 7 years. I know I say that a lot, and I'm tired of saying it. But Louisville is going to be really good this year. Lincoln Keen-Holtz is going to be one of the best transfer portal quarterbacks. You brought in Isaac Brown, is going to be the best running back in this upcoming season, and expect Louisville to be a sleeper this year. Number 2, SMU is just primed to break out. I see a 10-win season for SMU, and even if they do lose in the ACC championship, if they have just one loss going into the ACC title, which, by the way, their schedule is ridiculously easy. It's ridiculously favorable, and it's so stupid how favorable it is. This is their hardest games this is what their schedule looks like. At Florida State, which Florida State is absolutely horrible. UC Davis at home, at Louisville, Missouri State, Boston College, Virginia at home. Virginia could be a trap game. Cal could be a trap game. But you have 2 hard games at home, at Syracuse, Virginia Tech at home, Wake Forest at home, at Notre Dame, at Stanford. I could definitely see SMU getting into that Notre Dame game with one loss. Even if they do drop that Notre Dame game, could a 3-loss runner-up in the ACC championship have enough of a resume to get themselves into the college football playoff? And even if that's the case, if SMU beats Louisville and if they have 2 losses, would that be enough for them to get into the ACC, to the final college football playoff top 12? I don't know. I think it could. My personal opinion, I believe. But we'll just have to see what the rest of the college football field looks like at the end of the day. SMU is uber talented. Rhett Lashley's here to stay in Dallas. Kevin Jennings is the second best returning quarterback in college football, or in the ACC. It's the defense that you have to worry about at times, especially the front 7, which lost a lot this past year. Lost Jeffrey Mba, who was a big factor in the middle. Who do you have right there to put in place? If you want to learn more about SMU, I still have a deep dive of SMU on our Sleeper series as well. And then number 1, I have Miami. This is the most dynamic offense in college football. You brought in arguably the best quarterback in college football in Darian Mensah, one of the most dynamic throwers of the football. And you have weapons that you can throw the football to. Malachi Toney, everybody knows about. You brought in Cooper Barkate, who is your number 1 pass catcher this past year. Mark Fletcher is back. You have an elite offensive line that still should be very good this year. Defensively, you may have lost some pieces, especially when you talk about Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, but you were able to fill them up. Damon Wilson, I've heard a lot of people say, is going to shine this year. It just seems to me that Miami, in all three phases of the game, has the most depth at the end of the day when it comes to them as a team. I know a lot of people have them a preseason number one. I would not be mad if they are. But we'll see, man. Miami is going to be very interesting to talk about at the end of the day. That's why I could potentially be seeing them atop. I think this is an obvious ACC championship player. I think they're pretty much almost guaranteed to be in the ACC championship. The Notre Dame game should be interesting. I'm intrigued to see that football game. Let's see if Notre Dame gets revenge. But other than that, guys, this is a Miami team that should roll through the rest of their schedule by the time they get to the college football playoff. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for us here on another great episode of the Southern Sports Scene. Make sure you all do us a favor. Hit the like, share, and subscribe down below. Turn on the bell notifications so that you are notified every time we go live, posting a video or posting a short. Make sure you follow us on all the socials at Lucas Hill SEC over on X. Follow us on Buzzer as well. Going over to our good friends at Buzzer and follow me there at Lucas Hill CFB. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay blessed. Y'all don't stress. Y'all have a great rest of the week. We'll see you soon.